Hello, chronic illness warriors. Welcome to the Going Beyond Coping channel. My name is Dawn Super, and I help people cope with chronic illness and pain. Today, I'm going to be talking about two of my worry relief techniques. I started experimenting 8 or 9 years ago, finding out what happens if I don't worry, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. First, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe to the channel. That will help it grow and help more people who need my message to receive it. And if you like my content, please make sure you hit the bell so that you don't get, so that you do get notified when I drop a new video. Okay, so let's get started. If you're watching this on Facebook, a like is appreciated, and a share to anyone that you think is needing to learn how to overcome worrying. Thank you. So today I'm going to talk about two types of worry. I'm going to talk about short-term worries and long-term worries, and I'm going to give examples of both. So today is a good example of a short-term worry. This morning I was running behind to get to work, and I drove, I had to drop off some pain oil at a friend's house. And she still lives a street away from where I used to live, but I'd only been to her house like trick-or-treating. I didn't go there regularly. So I drove to the house and I just listened to the Google Maps, and it said, "You have reached your destination on the left." And I pulled in the driveway and I ran up and I dropped the pain oil in a pair of shoes on the porch. And I got back in my car, and on my way to work, I thought I'd better, send her a quick message and let her know it's there. So I said, "I left the oil in your shoes." And I continued listening to the video that I had playing, because that's a great time for me to get new information in, is when I'm in the car driving. So I was listening to a video about the law of attraction and thinking about how I was very low on gas and I needed to make an effort to get gas after work that day. And I pull into the parking lot at work. I'm about 20 minutes later than I wanted to be. And I look at my phone and it says, "I don't have any shoes on my porch." So then I thought, well, geez, I've left them at the wrong house. Do I go into work now and just accept the loss? Or do I drive back? So I decided to drive back. And as I was driving, I thought to myself, well, geez, when I left the stuff on the porch, I felt very comfortable that it was my friend's house. And now I'm going to be walking up to a stranger's porch and taking something that they may not have seen me leave there. So I had a little bit of worry about that. And I had to shush it and just say, you know what, let's worry about that if it happens. Let's keep going and doing what we feel we're supposed to be doing. So I pull in the driveway and I got it, and it was fine. And I, 2 houses over, dropped it at my friend's. And then definitely it was her house, because she had 4 vehicles in the driveway, and that was definitely her house. So I left it there and carried on my way as my gas gauge continued to go lower. So I have a Prius, and I'm not really worried about it, and I live very close to where I work. So I just put it out of my head and said, you know what, I'll get gas after work, or I'll talk my husband into it, which is what ended up happening, because he's good like that. So that's an example of a short-term worry. Some others that you may or may not relate to is being afraid of being embarrassed, like you're worried about embarrassing yourself in a conversation, worry about fitting in to a friend group or some other situation, worrying if you're going to make it to work on time, if you're going to burn dinner. Things that are happening right now are short-term worries. And the best way to get through them is to encourage yourself. The brain is not always your friend. A lot of times we forget that. And it's going to throw those worst-case scenarios at you, and you have the ability to shush those. to say, well, if the person comes out of the house and wants to know what I'm doing on their porch, then I'll explain myself then. But investing the time in worrying about what might happen is taxing. It releases cortisol into the body and generates stress. And living with a chronic illness, stress is not good for you. Make you tired, give you a headache, stomach ache, whatever. So when you experience the short-term worries, are you going to make it to your appointment on time? Are they going to let you in the door? Are you going to make it before the place closes? Are you going to pass this test that you're taking right now? Those are the times to reassure yourself and, just, I got this. Just say to yourself, I got this. Whatever happens, I'll deal with it. Long-term worries are like having to pay a bill that you don't have the money for, or what else? A test that you're studying for now, or whether or not you're going to get a promotion, or if the store is going to have the item that you need, if you're going to make enough money from your company this month, if someone's going to call in sick, if your uncle's tests are going to be okay, if anything like that, anything that's distant from you time-wise or separated from you, like it's not happening to you. Those are the worries that you have to ignore. When someone is going through something and there are no actions that you can take to help the person have the end result that they want to have, it's important that you don't worry about them. You hear that from people all the time. I'm worried about you. And what does that look like? Like, to me, if I'm worrying about you, it means I'm spending time in my own head painting these worst case scenarios about what might happen to you. And that's not fair to yourself. The other person doesn't know you're thinking about them in that way unless you're discussing it with them at that moment. And your actions of thinking about these things are not doing anything productive for the person that you're concerned for or yourself. So if you want to pray or meditate for a person and think about them, sorry, Sjogren's, my eyes are dry. Think about them having a favorable outcome to their situation, then invest that time that way. Invest that time in sending good thoughts. Like, I hope you are healthy, and I hope that everything works good, and I hope that you come out of this, feeling the way that you want to feel. But to sit there and speculate over what's going to happen and what's going to happen to them and what's, those are stories that you're creating, and they're not good for you. They're not good for you, and they're not good for the other person. That cortisol release is going to stress you out. So how this all manifested for me. I had blown up my life and ended my 15-year marriage and was renting 2 rooms in the home of someone who was a hoarder, and I had a lot going on. I had some medical issues really bad going on at that time. My ex was sending me texts that were not nice. I was living on welfare, thank you, state of California. And I just thought to myself that I had an obligation to think about my problems, right? Like, you can't ignore your problems, Dawn. That's what my irrational brain was saying to me. Like, if I didn't constantly think about the fact that I had a test pending, that I had a bill pending, that he may or may not send me a message that's going to give me cataplexy, am I going to have food in the fridge the last week of the month to feed my kids? Sitting there wringing your hands thinking about those things does not change those outcomes at all. And so I started with these little experiments. I started saying to myself, well, if the test comes back positive, I'll deal with it then. Well, if the bill is really expensive, I'll make arrangements and I'll deal with it then. Well, if my ex sends me a message, I'll deal with it then. And I'm going to wait until the last week of the month, and if I don't have enough food, I'll deal with it then. I do have some friends I could lean on and other resources that I can access at that time. Food pantry, if I was really desperate, I would totally do that. And as the situations passed, as the test results came back negative, and as the bill came in and it was affordable, and as the text stopped coming, and as the last week of the month came and I had plenty of food for my kids, thank you again, California, I realized in that moment what I had saved myself from. I thought about the state that I would have put myself in, worrying if my test result was going to be positive, the time I would have invested searching on the internet for what happens if my test is positive. I didn't do any of that stuff. And I was able to, in the moment, experience the relief of the small medical bill and be grateful I had not torn myself up about it. So I started practicing more things. If I had concerns about anything, the first thing I would think is, well, what can I do about this? If I can do something about it, I'm going to do something about it. And if I can't, it's going right out of my head until the next step comes for me to deal with. And in the last 8 years, I've been able to expand that to where I don't worry about other people and I don't worry about situations that are happening in the world, and I don't worry about what's happening to my neighbor. I don't worry about what's happening to my husband or my kids or even myself. I just let it all go. I just continuously, over and over, ask myself the question, well, what happens if I don't worry about this? If I drop my phone in the sink and it's in water and, and I'm worrying whether or not it's going to work. Worrying about whether or not it's going to work is not going to change whether it's going to work or not. And having that deep realization of what you're doing to yourself when you choose to worry instead of putting it out of your head and choosing to distract yourself with something else, to clear your mind in another way, to sing a song, to say a prayer, to say a poem, whatever, to remove the thoughts, because it's the thoughts that generate the emotions, that generate the symptoms that wear you down. So if you want to keep going beyond coping into thriving and loving your life, you need to set worry down. And it takes a long time, it takes practice, but you're not going to get there until you practice, until you have successes and you see those successes working for you. So that's it. I'm going to tag a video here, around here somewhere, if you want to keep watching the What Happens If I Don't. There's also a playlist on my YouTube channel and on the videos tab on the Positively Narcolepsy page on Facebook. If you have narcolepsy and you're on Facebook, we have a group, the Positively Narcolepsy group, and we talk about coping skills and things we've learned and how to stay positive, and we encourage each other and laugh, and it's a nice respite. It's a nice safe space, a support group where there's no whining, venting, mean things at all. It's a happy fairy tale bubble, and I love it. As I grow my Going Beyond Coping page on Facebook, I'm going to start a group for that as well. It'll be more open. The Positively Narcolepsy group is all about narcolepsy, but the Going Beyond Coping page will incorporate all chronic illnesses. So if you're on Facebook and you're interested in a group where you can go and no one's whining or complaining and you're just encouraging each other and talking about food and stuff that you can do to feel better in your head and keep going beyond coping, then give that a look up. Thank you so much for your time. If you've made it this far, want to comment, I made it. That will help encourage me to keep doing these things. Make it a great day, warriors. The choice is always yours.